History is filled with secrets modern science cannot crack. Entire civilizations developed technologies so advanced we still cannot recreate them today. This journey uncovers 25 of these lost marvels, from a concrete that heals itself to a weapon that burns on water. You will discover how a 2,000-year-old device predicted cosmic events with the precision of a modern computer, and why a legendary metal mentioned by Plato has never been identified. By the end, your understanding of human progress will be completely transformed. What forgotten knowledge do you think is still waiting to be found? One of the most astonishing artifacts ever pulled from the sea is a lump of corroded bronze and wood, known as the Antikythera Mechanism. Discovered by sponge divers in a Roman shipwreck over a century ago, this intricate device was initially overlooked, its true significance hidden beneath centuries of encrustation. It was only when archaeologists noticed precise, machine-cut gears embedded within the stone-like mass that they realized they were holding something extraordinary. This was not a simple statue or a piece of jewelry, but a complex mechanical computer dating back more than 2,000 years to ancient Greece. Its dozens of interlocking bronze gears worked together to calculate the movements of the sun, the moon, and the planets. It could predict lunar and solar eclipses with stunning accuracy, and even tracked the timing of ancient athletic games like the Olympics. The sheer sophistication of its engineering would not be matched again until the mechanical clocks of the 14th century, over a millennium later. How could a civilization without precision tooling or an understanding of gravity's laws create such a device? The knowledge required to design and build the Antikythera mechanism implies a mastery of astronomy and mathematics that we never knew the ancient Greeks possessed. Its very existence suggests that entire schools of advanced scientific thought were lost to history, their secrets sinking to the bottom of the Mediterranean, along with the ship that carried this marvel. This profound loss of mechanical genius finds a parallel in a different kind of material, one that was said to be unbreakable. While the Greeks mastered the cosmos with gears, the Romans conquered the material world with a stone-like substance that defies time itself. Walk through Rome today and you stand in the shadow of the Colosseum, a 2,000-year-old monument that has survived earthquakes, wars, and the slow decay of centuries. Sail to a harbor in Italy and you can see ancient breakwaters still standing firm in the relentless saltwater, while modern concrete piers nearby have needed constant repair after just a few decades. This incredible longevity is the mystery of Roman concrete. Our modern concrete is designed to last for decades, but the Roman version was built for millennia. The secret was not just in what they put in, but in the chemical magic that happened after it was poured. They mixed volcanic ash, lime, and chunks of rock, creating a recipe that actually grew stronger when exposed to seawater. The saltwater triggered a slow, miraculous process where minerals filled in any tiny cracks that formed, essentially allowing the concrete to heal itself. Scientists today have spent years trying to crack this ancient code. They can identify some of the ingredients, like the specific volcanic ash from the region of Pozzuoli, but the exact ratios and the precise mixing methods used by Roman engineers remain just out of reach. It is a humbling thought that we, with all our advanced technology, cannot replicate a building material that common laborers were mixing 2,000 years ago. This was not an accident, it was a pinnacle of material science, a lost art of creating structures meant to endure forever. The Romans built with the future in mind, leaving behind a legacy in stone that challenges our own notions of progress. This same spirit of creating something seemingly impossible from simple elements echoes in a legendary metal that was said to be both beautiful and unbreakable. The legend of Greek fire reads like a weapon from a fantasy tale, a liquid flame that could not be quenched by water. For centuries, the naval forces of the Byzantine Empire wielded this terrifying substance as their ultimate weapon. Imagine the sheer horror of an enemy fleet watching as a stream of fire was launched from a Byzantine ship, a fire that not only clung to the wooden hulls and sails but burned even more fiercely when sailors tried to douse it with seawater. This was not ordinary fire, it was a sticky, persistent inferno that gave the Byzantines a near-mythical advantage on the waves. The secret of its formula was considered so valuable that it was known only to a select few, perhaps even the emperor and a single family of chemists. The ingredients were mixed in secret locations, and the knowledge was passed down orally, a state secret of the highest order. We believe it was a complex cocktail of crude petroleum, pine resin for adhesion, and possibly quicklime, a substance that heats up violently when it gets wet. Yet modern experiments with these components have never produced a flame that matches the historical descriptions of Greek fire's ferocity and its ability to burn on water. The true recipe died with the fall of Constantinople, a definitive end to a technology that had protected an empire for hundreds of years. It is a stark reminder that some of the most powerful discoveries of the ancient world were not grand monuments, but volatile, closely guarded formulas. This mastery of chemistry for destruction finds a beautiful and equally mysterious parallel in the ancient world's mastery of art for creation. While Greek fire mastered destruction, another ancient technology perfected the art of the blade. Damascus steel swords are the stuff of legend, renowned for their beautiful, watery surface patterns and near-mythical performance. These were not merely weapons, they were masterpieces of metallurgy, capable of being sharp enough to slice a silk scarf in midair, yet strong enough to shatter a lesser sword upon impact. The secret lay in their creation, a process that began with a specific type of raw material known as wootz steel, which was forged in ancient India. Craftsmen would take these unique iron ingots, rich in carbon, and subject them to an incredibly complex cycle of heating, hammering, and slow cooling. This painstaking process somehow encouraged the formation of carbon nanotubes within the metal itself, microscopic structures that gave the steel its unparalleled combination of hardness and flexibility. This was nanotechnology achieved over 1,000 years ago, hidden within the folds of a sword. Yet, by the 18th century, the precise method for making true Damascus steel vanished. The sources of the original wootz ingots were lost, and the exact forging techniques, the specific temperatures and rhythms known only to a few master smiths, faded from memory. Today, with all our electron microscopes and advanced furnaces, we can create steel that mimics the appearance with its wavy patterns, but we have never fully recreated the unique internal nanostructures or the legendary properties that made an original Damascus blade so fearsome and revered. It stands as a silent testament to a level of craftsmanship we can analyze but cannot truly revive. If such knowledge could be lost from the world of metal, it is no surprise that the methods for moving mountains of stone have also vanished into the past. The same mystery of lost skill hangs over the silent, sun-baked plateau of Giza. The Great Pyramid stands as a monument not just to a pharaoh, but to a construction feat that defies easy explanation. Built from over 2 million limestone and granite blocks, each weighing several tons, its sheer scale is staggering, yet it is the precision that truly baffles the modern mind. These colossal stones were cut and set with such incredible accuracy that you cannot slip a credit card between them. This was not rough, brute force construction. It was an exercise in microscopic perfection on a gargantuan scale. How did a civilization without iron tools, pulleys, or the wheel achieve such a thing? The quarries show evidence of workers using simple dolomite hammers and copper chisels to painstakingly free each block, a process that seems impossibly slow for the project's immense size. Then came the transport, moving stones heavier than elephants across miles of desert. Theories suggest they were hauled on sleds over wet sand, or perhaps rolled on a system of logs, but no single method has been proven to work reliably for every stone. The final and most perplexing challenge was the placement. How did they lift these multi-ton blocks hundreds of feet into the air, positioning them with that hair's breadth accuracy? The classic image of vast, straight ramps snaking up the pyramid's side creates logistical nightmares, requiring more ramp material than the pyramid itself. Other ideas propose intricate internal ramps or sophisticated lever systems, yet none have been demonstrated in a way that fully satisfies the evidence left behind. The true method remains a secret locked in the stones, pointing to a level of organizational genius and practical engineering that we are still struggling to comprehend. Such a grand project makes you wonder what other kinds of power, beyond human muscle and ingenuity, the ancients might have learned to harness. A different kind of power may have hummed within a simple clay jar found near Baghdad. This unassuming artifact, dating back 2,000 years to the Pantheon period, consists of nothing more than a terracotta pot, a copper cylinder, and an iron rod. Yet when a German archaeologist first reconstructed it in the 1930s, he made a startling discovery. If the jar was filled with an acidic liquid like vinegar or grape juice, it became a primitive battery, capable of generating about 1 volt of electricity. This is the enigma known as the Baghdad Battery. What could this small, steady current have been used for? One compelling theory suggests electroplating, the process of using electricity to coat one metal with a thin layer of another, such as putting a gold shimmer onto a silver object. We know the ancients were masters of gilding, and this could explain how they achieved such fine, consistent results without any known chemical methods. Another, more mystical idea proposes the battery was used for religious or medical purposes, perhaps to create a mild, tingling sensation to convince worshippers of a deity's power or to numb pain. The frustrating truth is we may never know for sure. No wires were found with the jars, and no ancient texts describe their use. Modern scientists can confirm the setup produces a charge, but they cannot confirm its intended purpose. This single, silent object forces us to question the entire narrative of technological progress. Was the discovery of electricity a fluke that was forgotten, a secret known only to a few priests or craftsmen? The possibility that a basic form of electrical science existed centuries before figures like Galvani and Volta officially discovered it is a profound and unsettling thought, suggesting that the glow of ancient knowledge may have flickered with a strange and forgotten light. A fired clay disc no larger than a dinner plate holds one of archaeology's most stubborn secrets. Unearthed in the ruins of a Minoan palace on the Greek island of Crete, the Phaistos disc is a perfect, round tablet from the 2nd millennium before the Common Era. Its surface is a mesmerizing spiral of 241 symbols, each one pressed cleanly into the clay. We see human heads with feathered headdresses, walking men, shields, birds, fish, and flowers, all arranged in a sequence that clearly means something, a message frozen in time. The mystery is not just what it says, but how it was made. Every single symbol was stamped onto the disc using pre-formed seals, a technique that amounts to a primitive form of movable type printing. This single object suggests the Minoans were experimenting with a revolutionary idea, pressing inked or painted stamps onto a surface to convey information, over 3,000 years before Johannes Gutenberg invented his printing press in Europe. Yet this innovation appears in isolation, a technological flash in the pan with no known precursors or successors. scholars have proposed countless theories for its meaning, calling it a religious hymn, a legal document, a story, or even a board game. Some argue the script spirals inward, others insist it spirals out. Every attempt at decipherment has failed, crashing against the simple fact that we have no other examples of this script to compare it to. The language and the logic behind the symbols are completely lost. The Phaistos disk is therefore a double loss, a lost message written in a lost technology. It whispers of a potential path not taken, a world where the printing press could have emerged in the Bronze Age, forever altering the spread of knowledge and the course of history. The frustration of an unreadable text makes you wonder what other forms of sophisticated record-keeping, perhaps even more abstract, have vanished without a trace. Navigating the featureless gray expanse of the North Atlantic required more than just courage. It demanded a kind of magic. Norse sagas speak of a magical stone, the solarstein, that allowed Viking navigators to find the sun's position on completely overcast days, or even after it had dipped below the horizon. This was not fantasy, but a likely application of forgotten physics. The sunstone is now widely believed to have been a crystal like Iceland spar, a transparent form of calcite with a remarkable property. When you look through this crystal, it creates a double image. By rotating the stone and observing how the light passing through it changes, a skilled user could detect the polarization pattern of sunlight in the sky, a pattern invisible to the naked eye that always points directly to the sun itself. Imagine holding this clear stone up to a solid blanket of gray cloud, turning it slowly until the two images within it merge into one, revealing an invisible road straight to the sun's hidden disk. This simple crystal would have been a revolutionary tool, a celestial compass that worked when the stars and sun were blotted out, guiding their longships with uncanny accuracy to places like Iceland, Greenland, and eventually the coast of North America. Yet for all the compelling theory, not a single such crystal has ever been found in a definitive navigational context aboard a Viking shipwreck. We have the sagas and we have the science, but we lack the physical proof and, more importantly, the lost user manual. How exactly did they hold it? What specific visual cues were they trained to look for? This represents a complete loss of a sophisticated technique, a hands-on knowledge that empowered some of the most daring voyages in human history. It makes you wonder what other simple, elegant tools, crafted from nature's own laboratory, have vanished from the world of travel and exploration. Deep within the jungles of Costa Rica lie artifacts of impossible geometry. Scattered across the landscape are hundreds of massive stone spheres, some as tall as 2 men, carved with a near-perfect roundness that defies their ancient origins. Known as the stone spheres of Costa Rica, these mysterious objects were crafted by the Diquis culture, a people who flourished over 1,000 years ago and then vanished, leaving behind no written records to explain their work. The sheer effort involved is staggering. Using only stone tools on incredibly hard granite, these unknown artisans somehow shaped boulders into spheres of breathtaking precision. How did they achieve such perfect symmetry without modern measuring devices or metal tools? The process remains one of archaeology's great puzzles. Some spheres are so perfectly rounded that their diameter varies by less than a centimeter from any point you measure. Think about trying to carve a perfect sphere the size of a small car, using nothing but another rock. The patience and skill required are almost beyond comprehension. But the mystery only deepens when we ask why. What was their purpose? Many were found arranged in specific patterns, lines, triangles, and even astronomical alignments, suggesting they were more than just decorations. They might have been a celestial calendar marking solstices and equinoxes, or perhaps they served as territorial markers for powerful chiefs, symbols of cosmic power and harmony. The truth is, we are left guessing. Their original placements were disrupted when many spheres were rolled away by early settlers, forever obscuring the grand design they were meant to form. This loss of context is as profound as the loss of the technique itself. We are left with silent, perfect stones, a testament to a vision we can no longer see, their meaning as smoothed away by time as their surfaces. This global drive to map the heavens in stone connects these Central American mysteries to another ancient wonder, one that aligns the earth with the stars on a breathtaking scale. Deep within the dark confines of the Temple of Hathor at Dendera, stone walls tell a story that seems to leap across millennia. Carved into the crypts are massive, bulb-shaped objects, each containing a snake-like form stretching from a lotus flower base to a connecting cable held by a priest. To a modern eye, the resemblance is uncanny. They look exactly like giant, archaic light bulbs. Could these reliefs be a literal blueprint, a depiction of ancient electrical lighting used to illuminate the pitch-black chambers where sacred rituals were performed? The theory is captivating, suggesting the Egyptians possessed a form of electricity, using primitive batteries or some other lost power source to banish the darkness with a steady, artificial glow. Mainstream archaeology, however, offers a different interpretation. Egyptologists see these carvings not as technical diagrams, but as profound religious symbols. The snake represents the god Harsomptus, emerging from the lotus flower, which symbolizes creation, all connected to the cosmic energy of the goddess Hathor. It is a spiritual story, not an electrical schematic. The frustrating truth is that we have no physical evidence, no glass bulbs or insulated wires pulled from the sands. Without any artifacts or clear descriptions of a power source, the light bulb theory remains in the realm of speculation, a tantalizing what if that modern science can neither verify nor recreate. It forces us to question whether we are seeing a forgotten technology or simply projecting our own world onto an ancient and symbolic one. This mystery of unseen energy, whether electrical or something more esoteric, finds a strange echo in the power of sound itself. The power of sound to move objects is not just a legend, it is a laboratory fact. Scientists today can use carefully tuned sound waves to levitate tiny droplets of water or grains of sand, suspending them in midair in a precise acoustic field. This makes the persistent legends from across the ancient world so compelling. Stories from Tibet, Egypt, and the Americas speak of priests or shamans using chants, drums, or trumpets to make colossal stones float through the air like leaves, gently guiding them into place for temples and pyramids. The tale of the Great Pyramid's construction, for instance, includes accounts of stones being made weightless by the sound of a metal rod being struck. Could this be a garbled memory of a real technology? The idea is that a specific resonant frequency, a pure and powerful note, could have been found that matched the natural vibration of the stone blocks. If this frequency was projected with enough force and precision, it might create a standing wave capable of counteracting gravity itself, just on a scale we cannot yet achieve. While we can lift a small particle, the energy required to levitate a single 2-ton block would be astronomical, and controlling such a force for precise placement seems beyond even our current understanding of physics. There is no physical evidence, no ancient tuning fork or sonic generator left behind in the Egyptian sands. This leaves us with a haunting question. Did ancient builders discover a profound secret of vibrational physics, a way to use the very air as a tool, a knowledge that was preserved only in myth after the last practitioner died? Or are these stories merely symbolic, a beautiful way to describe the incredible communal effort and harmony required to achieve such architectural miracles? The line between metaphor and lost machine becomes dangerously thin. This fascination with unseen forces that can manipulate the physical world finds a parallel in a material so strange it seems to defy the laws of nature. Plato's writings give us a metal woven from myth itself, orichalcum. In his account of Atlantis, he describes a radiant copper-like metal that gleamed with a fiery red light, prized almost as highly as gold and used to sheath the interior walls of the citadel temple. This was no ordinary brass or bronze, but a substance of legendary quality, said to be mined directly from the earth of the lost continent. For centuries, scholars and treasure hunters have tried to pin down its identity. A shipwreck off the coast of Sicily yielded 39 mysterious metal ingots, and initial analysis showed they were an alloy of copper, zinc, and small amounts of nickel and iron, a unique brass that matched some vague historical descriptions. Yet, does this discovery truly solve the mystery? The ingots, while ancient, lack the extraordinary properties Plato so vividly described. His orichalcum was more than just a decorative alloy. It was a material of immense value and seemingly supernatural beauty, a metal inextricably linked to a civilization that may never have existed. The true formula, if it was ever real, remains a ghost in the archaeological record. It represents something deeper than a single lost recipe. It symbolizes the countless material sciences that must have flourished and then died out, leaving behind only whispers in ancient texts. If such a celebrated metal could vanish so completely, what other legendary substances might be waiting to be rediscovered? A Roman cup sits in a museum, looking unremarkable until the light changes. The Lycurgus cup, crafted in the 4th century, is one of the ancient world's most astonishing artifacts. Under ordinary front lighting, it appears a solid, opaque jade green. But hold a light source behind it, and the entire vessel undergoes a magical transformation, glowing a translucent, vibrant ruby red. This is not a trick of stained glass. It is a phenomenon called dichroism, a property we now know comes from the manipulation of matter at an almost unimaginably small scale. The Roman artisans who made this cup had, by a process still not fully understood, infused the glass with a precise mixture of gold and silver nanoparticles. Each particle is thousands of times smaller than a grain of pollen, and they are suspended in the glass at just the right concentration. When light passes through the cup, these tiny metal fragments scatter the light in a specific way, filtering out the green wavelengths from the front and allowing the red wavelengths to dominate from behind. This was not an accident. It was a deliberate and masterful application of nanotechnology, a field of science that would not formally exist for another 1600 years. We can analyze the effect with electron microscopes, but we cannot perfectly recreate the exact manufacturing process. How did they grind the metal so fine without modern machinery? How did they control the heating and cooling of the glass to keep the particles suspended without clumping or melting away? The recipe was lost, a secret held by a small group of Roman glassmakers whose knowledge vanished with their workshops. That a drinking vessel could contain such a profound scientific principle forces us to reconsider the very definition of ancient craft. It was more than art, it was a form of alchemy that manipulated light itself, hinting at an optical science far more advanced than we ever suspected. A single piece of polished rock crystal discovered in the ancient Assyrian palace of Nimrud holds a quiet but profound mystery. Known as the Nimrud lens, this 3,000-year-old oval of crystal has been ground into a shape that is unmistakably optical. If you were to hold it today, you could use it to magnify small objects or, by focusing the harsh Mesopotamian sun, concentrate its rays into a pinpoint of heat capable of starting a fire. This was no accidental piece of jewelry. Its precise, slightly oval grind suggests a deliberate attempt to create a tool for bending light. But what was its true purpose? Was it the magnifying aid of a meticulous scribe, struggling to carve tiny cuneiform symbols onto a wet clay tablet? Was it the sacred instrument of a priest, used to kindle ritual flames from the power of the sun god himself? Or was it perhaps the first crude telescope, held up by an Assyrian astronomer to bring the distant planets into sharper focus? We simply do not know. The frustrating truth is that the lens stands alone, a solitary spark of optical genius that never caught fire. The Assyrians, for all their martial and architectural prowess, never developed a culture of eyeglasses, telescopes, or microscopes based on this discovery. The knowledge of how to consistently grind and use such lenses seems to have died in the workshop where it was born, a single experiment that was never repeated or refined. It is a haunting glimpse of a road not taken, a path in the history of science that could have led to telescopes centuries before Galileo, but which instead vanished back into the dust. This solitary artifact reminds us that a discovery, no matter how brilliant, means nothing without a culture to nurture and build upon it. From this small lens that focused light so precisely, we turn to a civilization that learned to capture light itself on a monumental scale. High on a sun-scorched butte in Choco Canyon, a blade of light performs its ancient, silent ritual. This is the sun dagger, a celestial calendar carved not from stone, but from shadow and illumination. The ancestral Puebloans engineered this marvel by carefully positioning 3 massive stone slabs in front of a spiral petroglyph etched into the cliff face. On the summer solstice, a single, sharp dagger of sunlight pierces directly through the center of the spiral. At the winter solstice, 2 perfect shafts of light bracket the carving. And on the equinox, a luminous blade bisects a smaller, adjacent spiral. This was not a casual sun-watching spot. It was a precisely calibrated instrument, a solar observatory built into the living rock of Baghdad Battery. The genius of its design lies in its passive complexity. It required no moving parts, only an immovable understanding of the sun's slow dance across the sky. We can stand there today and witness the same light show, but the deeper knowledge is gone. How did they plan it? How many generations of careful observation were required to plot the sun's path with such exactitude before they ever set a chisel to stone? The cultural context, the rituals that likely accompanied these solar events, the full meaning of the spirals themselves, all of this is lost. We see the effect, the breathtaking alignment, but we are deaf to the ceremony and blind to the centuries of accumulated wisdom that made it possible. It stands as a profound reminder that the greatest loss is often not the physical structure, but the living, breathing knowledge system that gave it purpose. This drive to capture cosmic time in architecture connects this desert observatory to ancient timekeeping methods found across the globe. High in the Andes, the stone walls of Sacsayhuamán defy logic. These are not simple, rectangular blocks stacked in orderly rows. Instead, the Incas built with a chaotic jigsaw puzzle of massive, polygonal stones, some weighing over 100 tons. Each boulder is a unique, irregular shape with multiple interlocking sides and complex angles, yet they fit against their neighbors with such flawless precision that you cannot force the edge of a razor blade into the seams. All of this was accomplished without a single drop of mortar to fill the gaps. The binding agent was nothing but perfection itself. How did they achieve this? The quarries were miles away across steep mountain valleys. Without the wheel, without draft animals stronger than the llama, the transport of these megaliths is a mystery that still stirs debate. Some suggest they were dragged on rolling log roads, a Herculean effort requiring the coordination of thousands. But the greater enigma is the cutting and fitting. The prevailing theory is that stonemasons used harder stone hammers to painstakingly pound the granite into a rough shape, then refined the fit by repeatedly lowering each new block onto the one below, using a colored paste to mark the high spots. They would then grind away the marked areas, repeating this tedious, unimaginably patient process over and over until the contact was perfect. This explains the precision, but not the incredible complexity of the multi-angled joints. Other, more speculative ideas propose the Incas possessed a plant-based chemical that could temporarily soften the stone, allowing them to mold it like clay. Or perhaps they harnessed sound, using resonant frequencies to vibrate the stones into a more pliable state. While these are captivating thoughts, there is no archaeological evidence to support them. What we do know is that this seemingly random polygonal design was a stroke of engineering genius. When the frequent Andean earthquakes strike, a rigid, rectangular wall will crack and collapse. But the interlocking stones of an Inca wall simply shudder and settle, the complex joints redistributing the energy, allowing the entire structure to dance with the earthquake and then stand firm once the trembling stops. We can only look upon these walls with a sense of awe, recognizing a mastery of stone that we, with all our diamond-tipped saws and computer modeling, have never been able to duplicate. A book exists that is written in a language no one on Earth can read. The Voynich manuscript, named for the rare book dealer who acquired it a century ago, is perhaps the world's most perfect puzzle. Its pages of fine vellum, confirmed to originate from the early 15th century, are filled from edge to edge with an elegant, unknown script that flows in a seemingly grammatical pattern. Yet for all its appearance of language, it communicates nothing we can understand. Its illustrations deepen the mystery. There are detailed drawings of plants that do not correspond to any known botanical species, their roots and leaves arranged in impossible configurations. There are diagrams of celestial circles populated by naked women bathing in interconnected tubes and channels, and pages upon pages of strange, herbal-like recipes. This is not a simple code, it is an entire knowledge system, a complete view of the world that is utterly alien to us. The very technology of its creation, the intellectual framework that gave it order and purpose, has vanished without a trace. For centuries, the brightest minds in cryptography, from wartime codebreakers to modern supercomputers, have tried to force it to give up its secrets. Artificial intelligence has been trained on its patterns, analyzing the statistical frequency of its characters, only to conclude that it possesses a structure akin to a real language, but one that remains stubbornly indecipherable. Is it an elaborate hoax, a synthetic language created to confound? Or does it represent a genuine, radical school of thought, a lost science of botany, astronomy, and medicine that flourished in secret and then died with its last practitioner? The manuscript's most haunting section may be its fold-out pages depicting what appear to be biological or medicinal processes, suggesting it could contain forgotten healing techniques or anatomical knowledge. We are left holding a beautiful, maddening artifact, a library of silence whose whispers we can almost but never quite hear. Nearly 2,000 years ago, a bronze urn in a Chinese court could feel the tremors of a distant disaster. In the year 132, the brilliant court astronomer Zhang Heng presented the emperor with an invention that seemed to border on magic, the world's first seismoscope. This was not a simple alarm, but an ornate vessel of cast bronze, adorned with 8 dragon heads gazing outward, each holding a bronze ball in its jaws. Below each dragon, a corresponding bronze toad sat with its mouth open, ready to catch the falling sphere. The principle was as elegant as it was ingenious. Inside the urn, a delicate inverted pendulum was suspended. When seismic waves from an earthquake, even hundreds of miles away, rippled through the ground, the pendulum would swing. It would strike a lever mechanism inside, which would release a ball from only one of the 8 dragon mouths. The direction the ball fell, clattering into the waiting toad below, pointed directly toward the epicenter of the quake. Historical records tell of the device detecting an earthquake that no one at the court had felt, with the ball dropping from the west-facing dragon. Days later, a messenger arrived from a western province confirming a major tremor had struck. The sophistication of this early warning system is staggering. It translated an invisible, physical force into a clear, actionable direction, all without any electronic sensors or digital networks. Modern scientists understand the basic principle of the pendulum, but the precise internal mechanics remain a complete mystery. Replicas built from the ancient descriptions simply do not work with the reported sensitivity and reliability. What was the exact design of the lever system? How was the pendulum calibrated to ignore local vibrations and respond only to the long-period waves of a distant earthquake? The secret died with its creator, a loss that echoes the fate of so many other ancient instruments designed to measure the unseen forces of our world. The art of the blade reached a strange and deadly perfection in the ancient Andes. Archaeologists have uncovered pre-Columbian knives from Peruvian cultures that are unlike any other copper tools. These were not ornamental objects, they were sacrificial knives, and their metal was a sophisticated alloy of copper and arsenic. This was not a random mixture, it was a deliberate recipe that created a weapon far superior to pure copper. The addition of arsenic made the metal harder, allowing it to hold a sharper edge for longer, and remarkably, it may have given the blades a chillingly practical property: self-sterilization. Traces of arsenic leaching from the surface could have created a toxic environment, preventing the growth of bacteria and ensuring ritual implements remained pure in a way we would now call antiseptic. This means a knife used in a ceremony could be cleaner, safer from infection than a simple copper blade. The knowledge of how to safely smelt and work this toxic metal to achieve the perfect crystalline structure without poisoning the smith was a high-wire act of ancient metallurgy. Modern attempts to recreate these knives have fallen short, producing alloys that are either too brittle or lack the same lethal sharpness and durability. The precise temperatures, the specific cooling process, the exact way the metal was hammered and folded, all are secrets that died with the master metalworkers. This lost formula represents a profound understanding of material science, where chemistry was harnessed not just for strength, but for a form of ancient hygiene. Such control over the very essence of metal hints at an even broader mastery of the elements, a knowledge of chemical processes that could transform the mundane into the miraculous. A single pillar in the Lepakshi temple defies the very logic of architecture. It does not rest upon the floor, but instead hangs from the ceiling, with a slender, unmistakable gap of a few inches separating its base from the stone pavement below. For centuries, visitors have slid a piece of cloth or a thin sheet of paper through this space, a ritual that confirms the impossible: the pillar is truly suspended. This marvel of balance has withstood the test of time, enduring vibrations and tremors without ever settling into a conventional position. The engineering principle that makes this possible is a profound mystery. Modern engineers can speculate that the builders possessed an intuitive, almost magical understanding of stress distribution. They must have calculated the weight of the entire ceiling structure and carved this one pillar to act as a perfect counterbalance, a keystone that supports the load through tension and compression in a way that seems to defy gravity itself. The specific knowledge of how to achieve this precise equilibrium, using only hand tools and an empirical grasp of physics, has been completely lost. We can analyze the result with our advanced software, but we cannot replicate the process, the feel for the stone, and the unerring judgment that guided the hands of those ancient artisans. This hanging pillar is not an isolated quirk. Similar architectural puzzles appear across the ancient world, from the massive, precisely balanced rocking stones in various cultures to the megaliths that seem to be placed in defiance of their own weight. Each one stands as a silent challenge, a reminder that the builders of the past had their own deep and now forgotten relationship with the forces that shape our world. Standing over 23 feet tall in the heart of Delhi, a pillar of iron has defied the elements for 16 centuries. The Iron Pillar of Delhi shows no significant rust, a feat that seems to defy the very nature of metal. Modern science has unraveled part of this mystery, identifying a paper-thin, protective film called mesawite that clings to its surface. This layer, a clever blend of iron, oxygen, and hydrogen, acts as an invisible shield, preventing the deeper metal from ever reacting with the air and moisture that would normally consume it. Yet knowing what the shield is made of is not the same as knowing how to forge it. The secret lies not in the purity of the iron, but in its specific impurities. The ancient blacksmiths who crafted this monument somehow incorporated just the right balance of phosphorus and other elements from their unique ore and charcoal fuel. Their exact forging technique, the rhythm of their hammering, and the specific temperatures of their fires encouraged the formation of this perfect protective skin during the cooling process. It was an accidental masterpiece of material science, a happy chemical accident born from a lost method. We can analyze the result, but we cannot reverse engineer the precise, hands-on artistry that produced it. This pillar is a monument not just to a king, but to a forgotten school of ironworking that achieved a level of durability our own stainless steel struggled to match. This ancient quest for a perfect, enduring material finds a strange echo in a substance that seems to flow like stone. Etched across a vast, arid plateau in southern Peru, the Nazca lines form one of the world's most enigmatic art galleries, a collection of colossal drawings only visible from the sky. Creatures like a hummingbird with wings outstretched over 250 feet, a massive spider, and a twisting monkey stretch across the desert floor, their forms defined by shallow trenches scraped into the earth. The method seems deceptively simple. The Nazca people removed the top layer of dark, sun-baked stones to reveal the lighter, sandy soil beneath, creating stark, contrasting lines. But the simplicity ends with the technique. The scale and precision are what defy belief. How do you design a perfect spiral or a geometrically sound monkey tail that runs for over a kilometer when you are standing on the ground, with the entire figure lost to your own perspective? The artists could never have seen their work in its entirety. They were essentially drawing a masterpiece while pressed against the canvas. The prevailing theory suggests they may have used a system of scaled-down models and a grid system, transferring the design point by point to the desert floor using stakes and ropes. Yet, even this explanation feels inadequate for the sheer accuracy of curves that run true for hundreds of yards, lines that remain arrows straight across rolling hills. This was a lost technology of large-scale surveying and communal execution, a form of land art that required a shared vision and a meticulous plan passed down through generations. The purpose is another layer of the mystery. Were they astronomical calendars, pathways for religious processions, or perhaps offerings to gods who alone could view them from the heavens? We see the breathtaking result, but the cultural knowledge that directed these hands, the reason for pouring such immense effort into a canvas meant for the sky, has been erased by the desert winds. This staggering achievement of manipulating the Earth itself on a grand scale stands in stark contrast to objects of breathtaking miniaturization, where skill was focused not on the vast but on the vanishingly small. While the Incas mastered stone and the Romans perfected glass, a different kind of genius was forged in the fires of Viking forges. Scattered across Europe, a handful of swords bear a name that echoes with power: Ulfberht. These were not ordinary blades. When archaeologists subjected them to modern metallurgical analysis, they made a shocking discovery. The steel was purer than any other European sword of the Viking Age, a high-carbon crucible steel with almost no slag, the brittle impurities that typically made medieval weapons prone to shattering. This purity gave the Ulfberht swords a miraculous combination of strength and flexibility. They were lighter, sharper, and far more durable than any rival, capable of bending almost 90 degrees without breaking and then snapping back to true. In the chaos of a shield wall, such a weapon was not just a tool, it was a decisive advantage. The mystery is profound. This quality of steel would not be common in Europe for another 800 years. So where did it come from? The leading theory points east to the Islamic world, where masters in modern-day Iran and Central Asia were producing similar crucible steel, known as Damascus steel. Did Viking traders navigating the river routes of Russia bring back these precious ingots, this raw material of legend, to be worked by a single, elite workshop of smiths who stamped them with the Ulfberht name? Or did they somehow learn the secret process itself, a technique that was then lost when trade routes collapsed or the master smiths died without passing on their full knowledge? Modern blacksmiths, using only period-appropriate methods, cannot recreate the Ulfberht's specific metallurgical structure. We can make steel of similar quality today with electric furnaces, but we cannot replicate the exact journey from raw ore to finished blade as the Vikings did. Each Ulfberht sword is a ghost, a fleeting moment where ancient trade and craftsmanship converged to create a weapon that stood centuries ahead of its time. This pursuit of the ultimate weapon forces us to ask what other battlefield technologies, born from a unique alchemy of knowledge and necessity, have vanished from the world. The legend of Archimedes and his death ray stands at the precipice of myth and physics. During the Roman siege of Syracuse, the brilliant inventor was said to have deployed a weapon of pure light. He arranged a series of highly polished bronze shields, acting as mirrors, to focus the relentless Mediterranean sun onto the wooden hulls of the approaching Roman fleet. According to the tale, a concentrated beam of solar energy struck the ships, causing them to smolder and burst into flames from a distance, turning the sea itself into a weapon against the invaders. The concept is sound in theory, a simple application of optics that any child demonstrates with a magnifying glass on a leaf. But scaling this principle to become a naval weapon of war is a challenge that has baffled modern science. Several teams have attempted to recreate the feat, with mixed and deeply debated results. Some experiments showed that under ideal, windless conditions, a large enough array of mirrors could indeed raise the surface temperature of wood to the point of charring, but achieving a self-sustaining fire proved incredibly difficult. The precise arrangement, the exact curvature of the mirrors, the perfect synchronization required to hold a steady focal point on a moving ship on a wavy sea, these variables present a puzzle we have not solved. The loss here is not necessarily the mirror itself, but the specific knowledge of its deployment. Did Archimedes possess an optical formula, a precise geometric layout that made the difference between a warm spot and a conflagration? Or is this story a later embellishment, a symbolic tale of one man's intellect holding back an empire? The answer may be lost forever, a ghost in the historical record that continues to challenge our understanding of what was possible. This fine line between legendary invention and historical fact leads us to the final and perhaps most personal of all these lost marvels. The final lost technology is perhaps the most poignant, a glimpse of a future that almost was. In the 1st century, the Greek engineer Hero of Alexandria described a simple, brilliant device he called an eclipse. Picture a hollow metal sphere mounted between two pipes with two L-shaped nozzles jutting out from its sides. When the water inside the sphere was heated over a fire, steam would rush out through those bent nozzles, causing the entire sphere to whirl with surprising force. This was not just a toy, it was a primitive steam turbine, a working demonstration that heat could be transformed into rotational motion. Hero's invention harnessed the very same fundamental principle that would, 1700 years later, power the factories, trains, and ships of the Industrial Revolution. And yet, in the context of the ancient Mediterranean world, it remained a curiosity, a wonder to be displayed in temples or philosophical schools. The eclipse spun, but the society around it did not. The economic imperative was absent. Why invest vast resources in developing a complex steam engine when abundant slave labor was the dominant source of power? The necessary infrastructure of precision metalworking and fuel-efficient boilers did not exist to scale the device up from a fascinating demonstration into a practical machine. The knowledge was not stolen or buried in a forgotten library. It was simply overlooked, a seed that fell on stony ground. This represents a loss of a different kind, not of a specific recipe or a single technique, but of an entire trajectory. The potential for a steam-powered civilization existed in the 1st century, a full millennium and a half before it finally emerged. Imagine how different history might have been if that spark had been fanned into a flame. The course of human progress could have been accelerated beyond our ability to comprehend, a silent, ghostly timeline that branches off from our own, all because a society saw a miracle and called it a marvel. These vanished marvels were not lost to a single cataclysm, but to a slow, quiet fading. The common thread running through their disappearance is a profound fragility in how knowledge itself was preserved and passed down. So many of these breakthroughs were held in the hands of a very few, the secret formulas of a royal glassmaker or the intricate forging techniques known only to a single family of swordsmiths. These were not public sciences, but closely guarded treasures protected by guilds and masters who saw their knowledge as a source of power and prestige. When that master died without a worthy apprentice, or when that small workshop was destroyed by war or plague, the entire technological lineage could vanish in a single generation. Entire libraries of practical wisdom existed only in the minds of a handful of people. Even more devastating was the collapse of the civilizations that nurtured these ideas. The intricate trade routes that supplied unique ores for Damascus steel or Ulfbert swords could be severed by rising empires or shifting economies. The vast, organized society that built the Great Pyramid, with its specialized laborers and centralized planning, eventually dissolved, taking its architectural secrets with it. When Rome fell, the intricate recipe for self-healing concrete was likely scattered and forgotten, a victim of social disintegration where mere survival trumped the preservation of advanced engineering. The knowledge itself was perfectly viable, but the complex society required to support and transmit it simply crumbled away. Sometimes the loss was even more straightforward, a simple matter of economics. Hero's steam turbine was a brilliant curiosity, but in a world powered by human and animal labor, there was no financial incentive to develop it further. It was a solution without a pressing problem, a marvel that remained a toy because the society around it had no urgent need for its potential. The movable type of the Phaistos disc never sparked a printing revolution because the cost and effort were too great for the available materials and the scale of the Minoan bureaucracy. The technology was not lost because it failed, but because it never found a widespread, practical application that would have embedded it deeply into the culture. These patterns force us to confront a humbling reality. Our own technological civilization, for all its digital archives and global networks, is not immune to these same forces. The loss of these ancient wonders is a permanent lesson in the value of open science, of sharing knowledge widely so that no single point of failure can erase an entire field of discovery. They remind us that progress is not a one-way street, and that every piece of understanding we possess today is a gift passed down through a very fragile chain. Our journey through these 25 lost marvels reveals a past shimmering with a genius we are only beginning to comprehend. These were not primitive accidents, but the peaks of human ingenuity, achieved through meticulous observation, patient craftsmanship, and a deep, intuitive understanding of the natural world. From the celestial computer of the Antikythera Mechanism to the rust-defying iron pillar of Delhi, each artifact is a silent question posed to our modern arrogance. They stand as permanent reminders that knowledge is not a linear path always moving forward, but a fragile flame that can flicker and go out, sometimes for centuries. These mysteries inspire us to look at history not as a dead record, but as a living puzzle, encouraging a sense of wonder and a renewed commitment to preserving our own discoveries for future generations. Perhaps with persistent research and a touch of humility, we might one day unlock the secrets of self-healing concrete or rediscover the true forging art behind a Damascus steel blade. Thank you for exploring these profound enigmas. If you were captivated by these glimpses into our forgotten potential, subscribe for more journeys into the unknown and share your thoughts below on which of these lost technologies intrigues you the very most.